Hey guys, Thingfishy here, and welcome to episode 4 of the Starting Class series. Today, we're seeing how powerful we can make the Vagabond, using the same general equipment as the Starting Class. And this is the only one that starts with a choice of 2 different melee options. We could go straight sword or halberd for this run. As we did straight sword on Confessor, and I've never actually done a full run with a halberd, I figured that was the way to go, and we're going to use, for my money, the best one in the game. To get set up for this run, I followed my standard setup guide for all of the flasks and weapon upgrades. We pick up the action here, heading south from the Third Church of Marika in Limgrave to grab the best combo for any strength build. Pick up the Spike Cracked here under the Minor Erd tree, then to the Mistwood Ruins for the Axe Talisman. Now straight to Lena's Rise in Caelid for some runes. Jump onto the side of the bridge and quit out in front of this hole in the wall. Most of the time, the Knight's Cavalry will jump at you as soon as you spawn in, but quit out quickly if he does something else. Now to Fort Farath to kill the Sleepy Dragon with the Morning Star and Bleed Grease from the setup, using a foul foot just after the final hit. Head back to the round table to buy a dagger and equip it with Golden Vow at the blacksmith. Now to the Bellum Church in Liurnia to get our weapon for the run, the Night Rider Glaive. I've wanted to do a run with the glaive ever since my ultimate strength video where I forgot it existed, because it is one of the best strength weapons in the game. I worried that the cavalry might be a bit of a problem for newcomers here, but quite honestly, I played so badly in this fight, I don't think it's possible to get hit more than I did. And I still got the win, so you'll be fine. Head to Iji and level the glaive up to plus 16. Then into Caria Manor for a returning favourite in this series. Run into Loretta's arena and quit out in the corner of it to disable her AI. Then down into the building nearby to grab Carian Retaliation from Pidia so we can parry easily with our medium shield. Now we need a heavy infusion for our halberd, so head to the entrance of Redmane Castle and follow this route to grab Cragblade. This is Cragblade's second and penultimate appearance in this series. No prizes for guessing what the final one will be. Now the last piece of setup is something that I only realised would have been really good in hindsight. Head to Carlay and buy 2 throwing knives. They'll be very important later on. So with the Axe Talisman, Spike Cracked here, Strength Physic, Golden Vow and Cragblade, we have our build. And let's see what it does to Margit. And poor old Godric didn't do too much better either. At this point, if you're newer to the game, you want to head to Raya Lucaria for some extra vigor levels. But I wanted to head to Volcano Manor. We need the Dagger Talisman for later anyway, and I wanted to see how the glaive held up in an early noble fight. And it does pretty well. But this fight would have been so much better if I'd just thrown one of my throwing knives at him at the start. run through the rest of the dungeon, through the stone sword key gate, and drop down to grab the dagger talisman. Rykard would be pretty easy with this build, but I wanted to see what the halberd was like for the big man. Now, as promised, I did try and balance these builds a little bit more than usual for this series. The extra vigour we have here allows us to brute force phase 1 without worrying about getting one shot, which can result in staggering Radahn and skipping phase 2 entirely. After Radahn, we can head to the Walking Mausoleum in Weeping and duplicate Radahn's remembrance for some extra runes. Then head back to the round table to grab the third talisman pouch from Enya. Now we're going to go back to Volcano Manor and speak to Banal to start the invasion questline. The first one is in Limgrave, and the second in Altus on the way to the Shaded Castle. Speak to Tanith after both for some extra gear, but the item we need is given by Banal after the second invasion, the letter to him. As the dagger talisman will be useless for the Draconic, I headed north from the Altus Plateau Grace to the Lux Ruins for the Ritual Sword Talisman. If you're relatively new to the game, the Ritual Shield Talisman might be a better pick. You can find this right outside the Colosseum in the capital. The Draconic Sentinel presents the perfect opportunity for me to talk about why I love this weapon. It falls into the same category for me as the Executioner's Great Axe and Great Stars, in that I find them to be the most satisfying way of playing a strength build. Weapons like Giant Crusher and the Great Sword will give you much higher damage, but the price you pay for that is needing to be far more deliberate with your timings. The slower speed of those heavier weapons forces you to play a little more passively. But with these slightly faster weapon classes, you can be constantly on the attack with similar damage and posture build up to the big stuff, thanks to Cragblade. When you get to the West Capital Rampart Grace, jump over the railings and head down into the real Round Table Hold for the invasion. Vargrim is actually a bit of a problem if you're utterly shit at PvP like I am. I find the easiest way of dealing with him is just making sure you stay close to Banal. The AoE from Devourer's Scepter will stun him every now and then so you can get the upper hand. Then gank the spell spammer with Banal. The reason for this questline is something I'm still a little bitter about, which is that the Vagabond didn't start with the fashion from the trailers. I guess it is understandable because everyone would just pick this class for the fashion, but I'm still bitter about it. For Godfrey, hit him with a single R1 between all of his attacks for a fight that's about as easy as it gets. For Morgott, I went with parries for phase 1. I don't really know why I've started parrying him recently, as it's definitely harder than just fighting him, but it is fun. For phase 2, all you have to do is wait for those big slow blood attacks. Now to the mountaintops, and I'm going to leave a link in the description for the mountaintop smithing stones you need now. The lack of somber weapons in this series so far means you're probably very bored of watching me get these. So as this was feeling like one of the strongest strength builds I've made in this game, I wanted to put that to the test by going to pick a fight with an endgame boss early. To get there, we need to fight Commander Nile. This fight doesn't get much easier than this. Bully the summons and then just wait for that big tornado attack. Head through the snowfield all the way to Ordner Town, then south to the teleporter and into Mogwin's palace. So is the Knight Rider glaive good enough to kill Mohg much earlier than usual without the purifying tear on your very first attempt? Fire Giant with this weapon is trivial. The posture damage is good enough to stagger him in place, and damage wise, I think you could definitely kill him here without any running around, if you got good RNG. And phase 2, even if the worst happens, really isn't a problem. Run through Farum to the Dragon Temple Transept Grace for one of the easiest duos I've done on any weapon. For the Beast and Malekith fight, if you want as many style points as possible, chip away at Beast's health bar with R1s, then let his posture recover about halfway through before finishing him off. And for Malekith, as my least favourite part of any strength build approached, I wanted as much damage as possible. So I leveled my faith to 15 using all of my runes and then headed to Fort Gale, riding around the back to grab Flame Grant Me Strength. There's nothing stopping you having this spell right from the start, by the way, but as I hope I've demonstrated, you don't really need it. Like all mid-weight strength builds, you're actually going to have to fight the worst boss in video game history. Stay as close to him as possible and hit him with R1s right before he casts, and it's not too bad. For Godfrey, same approach as Beastie Kev. R1s for the first half of phase 1, let him recover, then get stuck in for the rest. Radagon gets absolutely bullied by this setup. You can do over half of his health in the first 10 seconds of the fight by hitting him with a jumping R1 on his jumping attack. When he's dead, you can get a Flame Grant Me Strength and a Crag Blade off if you're quick enough. Again, this is a super strong setup for Elden Beast. If you don't feel like being delicate with dodging Elden stars, this weapon is good enough to stagger him in the cast, so you can iframe a lot of it with your riposte animation. Our vigour and armour mean this isn't too risky. Now back to Farum for Plassey. For the ultimate start, you can go for charges in between the lightning for a very quick stun. But if you'd rather play it safe, just go for R1s and save the charges for the longer attacks. You will still get plenty of staggers in this fight. And finally, into the Halig Tree for the last two bosses. Like the Draconic Sentinels, Loretta is dealt with very easily with parries and charged attacks. So the Knight Rider Glaive then, good weapon? Hell yeah. This thing did way better than I expected it to across the whole game. So much so that, for the first time, In making this video, I'd accidentally made a completely different video entirely. I set out to make an optimized Vagabond build, but really, what I'd actually done was bully everything.